My favorite color is dark blue.
I like to carry the torch for Special Olympics.
I am just like you.
I'm just like you. I'm just like you.
我和你一样。
We're just like you.
我是西公母团。
I'm just like you.
I am just like you.
We are just like you. 所以跟我读。I'm just like you.
I'm just like you.
I am just like you.
I'm just like you. I like art.
My favorite song is Michael Jackson.
I make jewelry. I made this bracelet.
I like to read, eat, and sleep.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal with Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos. Moi, je aimais à jouer foot.
Red and pink are my favorite colors.
Off the wall. Thriller.
You want to sing one?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
That's your brother, silly. You're a sister.
我最喜欢的颜色是紫色。
I like taekwondo. I am born to be a leader. We're twins.
My favorite color is dark blue.
I like to carry the torch for Special Olympics.
I am just like you.
I'm just like you. I'm just like you.
我和你一样。
We're just like you.
我是西公母团。
I'm just like you.
I am just like you.
We are just like you. 所以跟我读。I'm just like you.
I'm just like you.
I am just like you.
I'm just like you. I like art.
My favorite song is Michael Jackson.
I make jewelry. I made this bracelet.
I like to read, eat, and sleep.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal with Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos. Moi, je aimais à jouer foot.
Red and pink are my favorite colors.
Off the wall. Thriller.
You want to sing one?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
That's your brother, silly. You're a sister.
我最喜欢的颜色是紫色。
I like taekwondo. I am born to be a leader.
We're twins. My favorite color is dark blue.
I like to carry the torch for Special Olympics.
I am just like you. I'm just like you. I'm just like you.
我和你一样。
We're just like you.
我是西。
Hi, my name is Molly Korte. I'm founder of Project Just Like You. I began this journey after my son Jacob was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder in the summer of 2016. I jumped in and just started sharing stories. We started off as a social media campaign, and now we've become a nonprofit. And we are so glad that you're here with us tonight. We want to share your story. So please, if you're watching tonight and you'd like to share your stories with us, or your child's stories, click on our webpage or email projectjustlikeyou@gmail.com, and we'll give you a form to fill out. Today is Movement Monday. This is a 2018 initiative of Project Just Like You. Our goal is to introduce you to people who we feel are making a difference and who are advocates of the differently abled community. People who support inclusion, people who fight for inclusion, and anyone else who we think are the champions of people with disabilities. Join our movement by watching the Movement Mondays every Monday night. Movement Mondays are produced by Fiat Media. You can check them out at Fiat Ministry on Facebook, or you can look at fiatministrynetwork.tv. We want to thank them so much because they make these possible. I hope you'll take a moment to click the share button and tell your friends what you're watching. And tonight, we want to welcome our special guest, Megan Nash. Megan is a stay-at-home mom and also a part-time marketing coordinator. She resides in Beaufort, Georgia, with her husband of 10 years and their 2 adorable children. Megan's daughter, Addison, is 10 years old and loves all things fashion and cheer. You might recognize her son Asher as the Oshkosh baby. He became somewhat of a celebrity when Megan's Facebook post went viral. Asher was the first person with a disability to appear in the Oshkosh advertisement. Megan is on the board and co-chair of the Buddy Walk for the Down Syndrome Association of Atlanta. She also volunteers with the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network and the Nothing Down organization. She has made it her mission to be her children's biggest advocate and to spread awareness for the Down syndrome community. Most days she juggles her hectic lifestyle quite well, and then on the other days, there's always wine. We love it. Megan, welcome. We are so glad to have you with us tonight. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
We are so thrilled. So we know that Atlanta has just been hit with some storms. How are you guys doing down there?
We're actually okay. We got a few winds and some rain, but it's hitting more South Georgia. Actually,
okay.
And I do have family there, but we've been pretty lucky right here.
Excellent. Good. So you guys are perfectly safe. Did you lose your power at all?
No, we haven't.
No.
Actually. We have been very lucky with the. I know that Florida. I was watching it, and I've seen all the news, and it's just so sad, though. All those people in their homes.
Oh, it's awful. The Panhandle just got.
I know.
It was so devastating. So our thoughts and prayers go out to them, of
Absolutely.
course. So, anyways, well, thank you again for being here tonight. We are so excited to dive into your family and your advocacy work and Asher. So in 2016, Megan, your son Asher made a huge splash. Can you tell us about that journey, please?
Sure. So it started out, we actually just wanted to submit Asher for casting calls. I know that everybody thinks that their children are beautiful and should model, but Asher literally smiled from the time he was born. And I mean, I have a picture of him at birth smiling until, you know, we started getting the camera out and taking his picture, and I noticed. And so we looked online and we found some casting that we could just submit to without being tied to an agency. And what we found was a casting call for a Carter's ad. And so I submitted his pictures, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen the pictures, but it's him in a bow tie, and it's 3 pictures of different faces that he makes.
They're beautiful pictures.
Thank you. So I actually got a response back that his pictures were not going to be submitted on because the criteria did not specify they were looking for a baby with special needs. And the thing was, it did not specify anything. It didn't say they needed to have special needs or not. It just said they wanted a baby who could crawl and not yet walk, which we, you know, usually that's not a good thing, but Asher was still not walking yet. And so we submitted, and I asked, I said, well, why would we not submit Asher when they don't specify either way? And I pondered on this for a few months, and then I actually took to the internet and I posted my concerns and my the story about it. And overnight, it was shared by different organizations and different pages. And one page in particular called Kids with Down Syndrome shared it, and it had over 100,000 likes overnight. And my post literally went viral, and I know it's because of his pictures. The world just took to his photos. So then from there, we actually ended up meeting with the CEO of Oshkosh, and Carter's actually owns both of those clothing companies. And we just sat down with them and we explained to the CEO, you know, why this is so important to include people with disabilities in advertisements. And he agreed. You know, they felt that they were diverse, but he actually realized after talking with me and meeting with Asher that you could be even more diverse. And so Asher ended up being in their winter holiday ad just the following month. And since then, he's actually worked with them a few times and has gone on to work with several companies. He's been an ambassador. He is an ambassador for organizations and other companies. And it's been a pretty amazing journey for him and our family.
I love that. They came to the wrong mama to say that to, didn't they?
That is what I'm told.
I love that, Megan. And I love your passion and your dedication and your drive to continue on and to, you know, just what you're doing is so important, not only for Asher's future, but for all of our children's futures.
Exactly. And when I think about this, my main reason, of course, was Asher when I started doing this. But now, I mean, there's a whole bigger picture. There's a whole community of people with disabilities. And like we say, they're all just differently abled, and they deserve to be in advertisements just as anybody else does.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. I think that's just awesome. So advocacy naturally is a huge part of your life, Megan.
Yes.
Tell us what keeps you busy and how you are continuing to build inclusion and acceptance for those in the disability community.
Sure. So once Asher was born, I actually reached out to local organizations and I became very involved with our DSA here in Georgia, which is the Down Syndrome Association of Atlanta. And there is a national organization called the Down Syndrome Diagnostic Network, who is a great resource for new parents who have just received their diagnosis. And so I started out with those organizations, and then I soon realized that there are so many. And so I try to volunteer, and I try to work with as many as I can and include Asher with them. But the biggest thing that I've learned now in 3 years of doing this is it starts with our kids. And I know a lot of people think that we need to advocate and spread awareness by talking to adults and, you know, teaching them inclusion and acceptance. But if you really stop and think about it, and this is something my 10-year-old has really taught me, is we can talk to adults all day, but, you know, as adults, we're pretty set in our ways. We've been taught something, you know, we're from a different generation. Our kids, though, the future right now, you know, my kids, Asher and Addie, that's where we should be really digging in, going into these schools. And that's what I do right now. My daughter's school, they, and I know most schools do, they have a genetics lesson, a whole genetics lesson that their 5th grade students do every year. And so for the past 3 years, I go in and I speak to the entire 5th grade students about Down syndrome, and I break it down what it means. I have kids every single year who say, I didn't even know that was a thing. And they didn't even know it existed. And then we have my daughter's and my son's schools. Actually, Asher's school just did it today. We have my daughter's cheer gym. So sports, your schools, your family, pick days in October for Down Syndrome Awareness Month to wear blue and yellow, because those are the colors for Down syndrome for the ribbon. And to also, it's fun to get them to wear crazy socks. And a lot of people are very confused by this. A lot of the times, the crazy mix match socks basically symbolizes that we're all unique, we're all different, but it sparks conversation. So if kids are walking into the school wearing these crazy funky socks, and you're asking, you know, why are you wearing those? And that starts that conversation. Well, did you know it's Down Syndrome Awareness Month? And my daughter loves this, you know, and she gets to talk to people and say, well, let me tell you what Down syndrome is. You know, my brother has it. Let me explain it to you. And that's one more person that we can, you know, explain to, and they'll have a better understanding of what it means, but then they'll be able to talk about it, and then we'll continue to spread awareness so that we will have more acceptance and inclusion. But like I said, I strongly feel that it starts with our youth right now. And that's absolutely where we need to be.
Yes, absolutely. You know, and you're talking about your daughter, and I can't help to think about my own daughters and how your children are going to be your son, and for my son as well, their biggest advocate. I mean, they're already becoming little advocates for life.
You're right. And Addison, aside from me, is Asher's biggest advocate. There is not a day that does not go by that I don't get a text from my 10-year-old, Mom, so-and-so said the R word in class. And she is distraught. And I love it, that her passion though, because she said, Mom, I told him that is not okay. And I explained why. And you know, she's 10. Imagine her in her 20s, you know, down at the Capitol fighting to get a law passed with Asher by her side. I'm hoping that they do that together. But I mean, that's what's happening. And I love that. And I feel your kids, it'll be the same, but it's such a good feeling to see that. Of course, you know, long-term, we want Asher to be his own self-advocate, but right now we are his voice. So.
Absolutely. That's right. You know, and as I was talking last week to Sarah said one of the things that she wants for the future of the NDSS is to have someone with Down syndrome become the president and CEO of the NDSS.
Yes. You know, I just saw her Tuesday.
Did you? I love that. That's like she's down in Georgia.
Yeah. Our organization went to the C21 pop-up. Asher came. And we were there.
How exciting. She's lovely, isn't she?
She is.
I like Sarah. So we have a question for you from our audience. Kelly wants to know, did you know that Asher had Down syndrome before he was born?
I did. So we actually found out at 12 weeks. I did that genetic testing, and then it came back for markers for Down syndrome. So at that time, I could have just said, okay, we'll take our chances with the percentage, but I am someone who likes to be prepared. Mm-hmm. So I did every test possible. We actually did an amnio where they physically count his chromosomes. And that's when we, you know, for sure knew that he would be born with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm. What was your initial reaction when you found that out, Megan?
You know, that's a great question, because I still to this day, I don't even remember how I felt. And I know that that's weird because everybody has a story. I felt so many different things. Like I was a roller coaster of emotions because I didn't know a lot about Down syndrome. I volunteered with different organizations, but I really, I didn't know too many people with Down syndrome. So I didn't know what to think. But like I said, the biggest thing was I wanted to be prepared. So I started researching, I started asking, I looked for the DSA, you know, in Atlanta, and I just got plugged in everywhere. And the Down Syndrome Diagnostic Network, because they are actually on Facebook. They were a saving grace for sure, because they have Facebook groups for when your child is born, and every single mama in there, our kids are born in the same year, rocking the extra chromosome. So it's pretty amazing though. And I don't think that I would have been able to do it without these, you know, groups and systems everywhere.
That's amazing. You know, it's funny you're talking about that because the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network, because I was just talking to someone earlier today who said, Molly, you need to have Jen Jacobs. I believe her name is.
Yeah.
She says, you need to have Jen Jacobs on your show.
Sure do. She's fantastic.
She's involved with it also. So she's, and I said, you know, you're right. Let's
yes, she is amazing.
That's awesome. We have another question for you, Megan. Someone in our audience wants to know, what advice would you give to parents who get that diagnosis when pregnant? Which is a great question.
That is great. So but when they're pregnant, as the same as when I got my diagnosis, is that what they're asking?
I believe so.
So the first thing I would say, because I did it backwards, I wouldn't get on Google. I wouldn't start searching. I will tell you something. When you Google the word Down syndrome, it isn't even correct, the definition that they give you on Google, by the way. And the pictures are not correct. If anybody has seen my son, or you've seen any child or baby with Down syndrome, they don't look anything like the pictures on Google when you look it up. I honestly, everyone processes differently, but what I would say is you need to take time for sure. Because something that I learned that I did not do for myself is we say that you almost need to take the time to grieve the baby and the vision of the baby that you thought you were going to have, because we all think it and we all have this vision of what our baby boy or baby girl is going to look like and what they're going to do. We plan out, you know, their whole life. And, you know, you've got this whole little picture, because it will be a different journey. It really will. I would never say that it's going to be the same journey that my 10-year-old has taken, but I will tell you, we would not change it for the world, because it's a completely different journey for both of them, but it has molded our life into the most amazing life. I mean, I tell people this all the time, and I know this is completely sidetracked every year. People ask me all the time, you know, do you feel bad? Do you feel sad for Ash and him having Down syndrome? People ask me that, and I say, you know what? There are children in other countries starving. There are kids that go to my son's school that possibly didn't eat that morning, and I see them with the holes in their shoes. Asher has a fantastic life. You know, we have a fantastic life. And so I would never, ever pity him or anybody with Down syndrome, because they probably live a much happier life than anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think that's a great response too. They're certainly not sad about it. And, you know, Megan, I've had people with the same thing when I say that Jacob has autism. And I remember one woman looking at me and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I looked right back at her and said, "Sorry for what?"
That's a hard reaction to get, right? I know. When they pity you. I have told people that before. Please don't pity my family.
Right.
Because we're fine.
You guys are doing just fine.
We have ups and downs just like anybody else. Ash, I mean, just this morning, he was on the floor at the school because he decided, he's very dramatic. He decided, I don't want to go in my class. He's like this, laid on the floor. And then I'm like, what do you expect? He's 3, you know? And aside from Down syndrome, I mean, he's 3. So I mean, we got our moments, but he really does. He's happy most of the time.
Right. I love the flair of drama.
It was hilarious. It was like hand up. And the teachers think he's hilarious. And they know. They're like, they walk right past him. They're like, "See you in the class, Ash."
That kid's going to continue. He's going to Broadway one day.
I hope that I know we just said that today. I said, I hope he wants to take on acting and other things when he starts talking.
That's right. Exactly. That's awesome. We want to welcome some people that have joined us. We want to welcome Karen, Kelly, Leslie, P.S., Jen, Kent, and Kristen. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. Again, we are with Megan Ash. She's the parent advocate for oh my gosh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I just blinked here. Yes. Asher and Ash.
Listen, you're fine.
That is so embarrassing. All right. Well, I'm going to, yeah.
You were totally fine. We're all allowed to have moments. Listen, I literally just took my daughter to cheer, drove back home, and now I'm waiting. I know she's going to come, and then Asher's in my basement. I'm like, you're allowed to forget things, okay? Just trust me.
I don't know what that was about.
It is fine.
Woo. All right. Well, I know that I appreciate everyone out there. Thank you. So we have another question for you.
Sure.
What does Asher's big sister think about her little brother's fame?
That's a great question. So if you asked me this question 2 years ago, it would be a different answer because there was a lot of jealousy. It was just the unknown. You know, I've been an only child for 5 years, and then all of a sudden, here's this little baby who has the Down syndrome diagnosis. So no matter how much we want to say that we are normalizing and we're including, it is different in our family dynamic. He has therapies all week, doctor's appointments all week, a lot more things to do. You know, my daughter, thank God, she's healthy. She's never sick, so she rarely sees the doctor. So she had to understand at first, like, that came with it, and then the you know, he became an overnight sensation in the Down syndrome and the disability community, and here in Georgia, he became a little mini celebrity. That was hard. I got most of the, you know, typical questions. Why not me? Why can't I be on TV? Why don't people want to take my picture? And it got really hard. Like, I will be super honest. There was a part in Addie's life where she looked at me and it broke my heart. She said, well, people only want to do all this, you know, because he has Down syndrome. I wish I had Down syndrome. And I just froze. And I thought, my goodness, if she only understood. And I don't want to explain this to her because I don't want her to think right now that Asher might live with us forever. But, you know, these are things that I wish she understood, but she's still so young. You know, she doesn't understand that she can go with her family, get married, and leave. We don't know yet if Asher will be able to do that. Will we push for that? Sure. If he wants to get married, I'm all for that. We will throw one heck of a wedding. You know, we'll do it all, whatever we need to do.
Right.
We don't know yet. He's 3. And that's the thing that's hard, is because she looks at it as such, like, it's not fair. He has Down syndrome. And I'm like, I love that she sees it that way. But at the same time, I wish that she understood, you know, his life he's going to have a lot more struggles.
Of course.
But the greatest thing is, like I said, he is her lifetime best friend, and they are best friends now. They're 7 years difference, but when you see them together, I love it, because the minute he looks at her and walks in the room, she melts, and she picks him up and she's like, oh, I just love you. You're so sweet. And I love it every time they do that.
That is so precious. Well, going along with those lines, first off, Addie should know that she too is a celebrity, because everyone who's following your page sees her as well.
Yes, so and she got to do some great things with the A&E network. You know, we flew out to California, and Ash did a PSA video last year with the cast of Born This Way.
I remember that.
But A&E came to Atlanta. They flew into Atlanta and they filmed 4 short series videos of our life, of the day in the life, basically showing the lucky few and what it means to be the lucky few. And she was in all of them. I mean, they literally did one entire video about her being his big sister, and it was so amazing. It was beautiful.
Oh, I love that. So she got the star status too.
She sure did, yes. And like I said, you know, that was then. And now it's so different as she's growing and maturing, and she's seeing, you know, I'm big sister, and that's important. I think it's helping her grow.
I love that. I do. I love that. Well, she is just absolutely adorable, and every time you see her, she has this big smile on her face, and
she sure does. Yes.
And you know, Megan, I can relate. When Jacob will run to the front door when he knows his sisters are coming home. Like, he just has it. And as soon as they walk into the door, he comes over and gives them this big hug. And it melts my heart, because especially being on the spectrum, it's very different with Down syndrome, because Down syndrome, there seems to be this continuous joy.
Yeah.
But with autism,
I do know personalities. Yes, I know what you're saying. It's so to see that lights up his world so much. I know that makes you so happy.
It absolutely does. So I can completely relate on that. We have another question for you, Megan. This person wants to know, what has been the best resources you found to help you and your family through your journey?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say there are so many organizations out there. Now, I know that it depends on where you live. But if you do have a child with Down syndrome, or you're just trying to learn about Down syndrome, if you even look up your local Down syndrome association, they always have great content. Ours in Atlanta, we have great content on our website. But after that, there is the National Down Syndrome Society and the National Down Syndrome Congress, and even the Down Syndrome Diagnostic Network. All of their websites have fantastic content as far as what is Down syndrome. What does it mean? How can I spread awareness? How can I advocate? And then it goes on for parents. Where do I go from here? Resources to help you. The local ones, especially reaching out to doctors and such in your area. But there are so many. I'm telling you, the resources could be endless if you really start digging online.
I'm sure, absolutely. Yeah, and you see, again, the Down syndrome community is so fortunate to have as many resources as you guys, as you all do.
We really are.
It blows me away. Wonderful. So I'm curious, Megan, what is your advice for others who want to start their child into inclusive modeling?
So when Asher started actually modeling, being with an agent and doing other things, something that I've realized is a lot of agencies think that they need a diversity department to have people with different abilities be with their agency. And I have learned that over the past 2 years now. I recommend you do just the same as anybody else. You submit their pictures, but I would write a cover letter. I would write a cover letter explaining, this is my child. This is why I want them included in advertisements. The world needs to see more people of all abilities in their advertisements, because sometimes, and I know this is crazy to think, but sometimes these agencies don't even realize, like I said, that they could be more diverse, and they don't know yet. And so until that picture of that adorable little child, comes across their screen, they're not even thinking in that way yet, which blows my mind, because I'm like, our kids are beautiful. All these kids are beautiful. But I really would just submit them, look up local kids talent modeling or acting agencies in your area. That's what I did at first. Most of the time it's to submit pictures to them by mail or online, but I would absolutely give them some content with that and explain why it's so important for your child to be included with everybody else, and at least get the chance to be accepted or denied, because we know there's always things, they're full, they don't need any more kids in a certain age group, but I would absolutely do it that way.
Awesome. Okay, that's great advice. Thank you. We also want to welcome now Reagan, Kim, and Stephen, who just joined us. Again, we are with Megan Nash, and we also welcome Lori as well. Welcome, Lori. We're with Megan Nash, mother of parent advocate and mother of Asher Nash, and we are glad that you're spending your evening with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan, so you obviously have worked very hard to break down barriers for those in the disability community. What are the misconceptions you've come across while raising Asher? What do you want others to know about it?
So one of the biggest misconceptions, and that actually will go along with what we were saying about Ash being happy, is the fact that a lot of people, until they have met and talked to someone with Down syndrome, assume that they truly are happy 24/7. And I think that's a long-going misconception. And one of the things I tell people all the time is, listen, Asher is happy, but just trust me that someone with Down syndrome can have any feelings and emotions that anyone can have. He will cry on the floor. He will laugh at a movie. He will cry when he's tired. I mean, any and everything that my 10-year-old does, Asher does. So that's the number one. One of the biggest misconceptions I'm learning as he's going into the school, though, is I feel that people automatically assume less from him. And I don't mean teachers, because we have fantastic teachers at his school, but I feel that from him, looking at him physically, people just assume he has Down syndrome. He's not going to be able to talk. He's not going to be able to write. He's not going to be able to ride a bike. And that breaks my heart completely, because with will and determination, I mean, these kiddos can do anything they want to do. And so that's one of the the other biggest things that I'm trying to show people is, look, like if they want to ride a bike, if they want to drive a car, if they want to get married, they're going to do it.
Absolutely.
For sure. But I would say also one misconception that I've learned is, and I learned this from Sarah, and so going to this pop-up restaurant on Tuesday, it blew my mind. They're amazing what they're doing with these pop-up restaurants if you haven't seen it. They did one in Atlanta. It's called the C21 pop-up restaurant. And they did one on the Hill in Washington last year, and now they did one in Atlanta. And what they do is they set up an entire restaurant somewhere, completely staffed by adults with Down syndrome. And they invite people to come and sit and dine the entire evening. And what they're showing is one of the biggest misconceptions, that people assume that they're not going to be able to work real jobs. And this is showing people they can work, they're willing to work, they want to work. And that's something I have learned too, is that people assume that someone with Down syndrome or even autism or any other disability belong in a grocery store stocking a shelf or sweeping a broom. And you know, it's not the truth now with these college programs, you know, out of high school now that we have, especially here in Georgia now, that are offered. They're able to go and get an education after high school, and they can go on to do whatever they want to do now. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a very important point you just brought up there, is that we're living in a wonderful time where we are seeing the future is very bright for our kids.
Yes.
And they can, and they will go on to do awesome things with their life. And so it's really wonderful to experience that, to be part of that. When we're watching history in the making, really.
I absolutely believe so. And I think the biggest thing, if I could tell parents anything, is our kids can really do anything that they put their minds to. But obviously we know without the support system, without us, I mean, they need us there 100%. And I get asked all the time from parents, how did Asher walk at 15 months? You know, because that's very early for a kid with Down syndrome. It's super early. His PT videoed it to show her office because they didn't believe her. And I said, because I did my research, we put him in, you know, therapy as early as we could, even as early as not just it was available as we could afford. You know, it's expensive. And so I know that that's problems, and I know that that can be an issue, an obstacle for families, but we got him in there, we pushed, but I am behind him in every step he takes, you know, and I feel like every move he makes, though, you know, we're going to be behind him every time, making sure like he's doing it 150%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. I love that. So you've talked about some of these, but I'd love to know about the joyous moments you've had with Asher and where his life has made an impact on others.
Sure. So honestly, the most joyous times with Ash, they're not when he's shooting or going to, you know, speaking events with me. They're just at home. And I know most people can relate to that because we're so busy during the week with our schedules and our work and our school and, you know, sports. The happiest times, truthfully, are when we're just laying in our living room and he is playing with his Legos, and Addie, my daughter's just lounging around, husband is just hanging out or watching a movie. Those are the happiest times because I could see it on my kids' faces. You know, they're just relaxed, we're having fun, we're playing, but I truthfully can see it on Asher's face. Like, he loves to just be with his family. And that makes me so happy because you see his little grin ear to ear.
That's awesome. I love that. So it's just hanging out, being a family.
For sure. If you knew our schedule, I'm telling you, if you knew our weekly schedule, if you knew just today, I'll tell you, both kids go to 2 different schools. So I dropped them at 2 different schools because Addie's school doesn't offer the program.
Okay.
Yep. And then I had to go pick up Ash. We had a meeting with an agent, and then I took him downtown to a sleep doctor. Then we came back and I took Addie to cheer until about 8:30. And so I'm like, that's just like one day.
Oh my gosh.
Like getting to sit and do nothing. And I'm telling you, like, you can see it in their faces, just the relaxing times of not having any responsibility.
Oh, that's so nice. Wow. Yeah, you know, and that's something else you don't think about, Megan. If you have a neurotypical family, you don't think about the different schools.
Yes, no, I tell people that and they're like, wait, what? And they're just like 2 miles down. That's the crazy part. I drop Addie And then I come all the way home because I don't want to stress Asher out. And yes, I know I'm crazy. I don't want to stress him out. I don't want him to have to get ready early. I drive him back home. I give him 30 minutes to relax. I get him ready, and then I take him to school at the end of his car rider in the morning.
Nice. That's really nice that he has that chance to relax.
Yeah,
Poor little Jacob. I just drive. I'm like, come on, Jacob.
I'm trying not to stress the kids out as much, you know. But
Good
they
for
seem
you.
to just roll with it. Yeah.
So, as you were just talking about Asher's busy schedule, where can we find him today, Megan?
So he has not done anything with Oshkosh lately, and that is it's a size thing right now. He's so like in between the clothing, and so it's hard because he is getting long, and actually he's very tall for a toddler with Down syndrome, but he's tiny. So so we're waiting on that. But lately though, Asher, he recently became an ambassador for an organization called Nothing Down. And if you haven't ever looked them up, they're fantastic as well. They're a fairly new organization, but there's a lot of kiddos that Asher is friends with, and I'm friends with their moms on social media that are ambassadors as well. But lately though, honestly, it's been very relaxing for us. I've been doing more speaking, and Ash has been really focusing on his therapies and school. We are trying so hard to help him talk. He turned 3 in July, and so we're really trying to help him with his speech, and we're learning. We knew that was going to be one of the biggest developmental delays for him, but it is absolutely his #1 struggle right now. And so we're trying to really, really push that. So he's doing, he does 6 therapies a week aside from the school and the school therapies. And so he is very busy. But we did recently, actually, though, we've picked up a few like smaller brands online that we've been working with, and that hasn't come out yet. And so we're stay tuned for a few of those to be coming out. And there's some other things in the works that we can't really talk about right now.
Sure.
Let me just say, if it happens, it's going to be another amazing thing for the Down syndrome community. Yes.
So exciting. Yes. Yay. Well, I can't wait. I'll be tuned in, Megan. So, Megan, what else do you want to share with us that we haven't covered? Is there anything else that we...
I'm trying to think. Honestly, I know that parents ask this all the time. What would you tell a new mom? That's something that I love to tell people, because I do get asked that all the time. Like, if you could say anything to a brand new mom whose baby was born with Down syndrome, and I will tell you this: it is a roller coaster. Your life, ups and downs, no matter if your daughter or son has Down syndrome or not. But you truly have been blessed with an amazing family having this child with Down syndrome. And I'm telling you, they're going to open your eyes, and you're going to see the world with such a different perspective. It is a beautiful thing, I promise you. So just sit back, take many breaths, though. I promise you, take a few breaths. But trust me, your life is going to be changed forever in a good way. I promise. I do promise.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Yes. And, and I think that the joy of having a child with any different abilities
absolutely
makes such a monumental impact on all of our, and on the parents' lives, on the families' lives.
Yes.
And, I will always remember this. When my son was diagnosed with autism, I did, I went to see the morning.
How old was he again, Molly?
He was 18 months.
Okay, yes. My best friend's daughter was diagnosed at 18 months. She's 4 now.
Okay, yeah. So Jacob will be 4 in December.
Yeah.
So I remember I went to my parents' house, and my dad was still living at the time. And my dad was the one, he held my hands and he started crying, and he said, "Molly, don't you see what a blessing this is for our family? Jacob is going to teach us to love more. Jacob is going to teach us to be more compassionate. Jacob is going to teach us to be stronger people." He said, "This is a gift." Yes. And Megan, it was right there that my whole mind shifted. And I was like, you know what? I'm looking at this all wrong. This little guy, absolutely, this has been a gift to our family.
My daughter's
What's that? Did she just come home?
Say hello.
Hi. Hi, Addie. I was talking about you earlier.
We were talking about you.
And how I love seeing all your pictures of your cheerleading and all the fun stuff that you do. You have a very proud.
I agree with you 100% though. And that's something, like I said, I know that everybody has their moments. People need to grieve. People process news like that in different ways. But at the end of the day, once you've gotten past that, it's seriously, it's such a blessing. Do you feel like you learn to appreciate the tiniest things now? Because that's something that we do for sure. Like,
absolutely.
When he sipped from a straw, I literally cried, and everyone, they were like, "Are you crying?"
I'm like, yes, I am.
I kept crying because I have held a straw to his mouth for 6 months, and every time he just looked at me. I'm like, yeah. We have learned to appreciate the tiniest milestones and the smallest moments, though, because when you have a child who is typical, and moves so fast through their milestones in life, you don't always appreciate and take the time with those moments. So it's
Absolutely.
nice to get to see it step by step.
Absolutely. Going along with that, Megan, this morning, Jacob was he does a self-contained classroom 2 days a week. He goes to a neurotypical preschool 3 days.
Oh, I love
and
that.
He goes self-contained 2 days.
Yeah.
And today his teacher came out, because I pick him up early because he has speech therapy. So I pick him up early on Mondays. And his teacher came out to me and said, he went pee-pee in the potty. And
yes,
I almost, just like you're talking about, like I didn't cry there, but I almost did. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, he's eating.
I know.
Yes.
So he gets check marks for that. And so we're not even on potty training wavelength right now, because I haven't even thought, like, he doesn't comprehend it.
Right.
Since he started school in August, 4 different times they have checked that they sat him on that toilet and he went, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yes, I know. And people thought I think we're crazy.
Right.
People are really like, are you joking? But when you have to praise and appreciate moments like that, because
Absolutely.
it takes so long to get there, but once you're there, it's golden, but it takes a while to get there for our kids.
Absolutely. No, I totally 100% agree with you on that. And it is a different experience, because you're right. It's the little things, and you just appreciate it on a whole new level, for sure. So yeah, awesome. Well, Megan, I want to thank you so much for spending your evening with us.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yay, so did I. It's such a treat to have you on with us. And I encourage everyone, if you're not following, follow her page, follow Asher's Downright Perfect, right?
Yeah, it's Asher's Downright Perfect on Facebook.
It's there on the screen. Yeah. And she also has an Instagram account that has like 1 million followers. And yes. And I'm so excited to find out, if crossing fingers for you guys, that you guys can break barriers again.
Thank you. That is our hope. So
that's awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again, Megan. And it's been a pleasure having you on tonight. And thank you. Thank you. And thank you to everyone else who was watching tonight and who's been part of our audience. Next week, we're going to have Michaela Hologram on our show. And she is, do you know Michaela? I'm sure you do.
Sounds familiar.
She is the first woman with Down syndrome to compete in.
Yes.
Pageant. Pageant. Yes. And then I always get the Miss USA and Miss America.
So there is a Facebook group of parents whose kiddos are kind of celebrities in the Down syndrome community. And so I am friends with her mom on there.
Sandy.
Yep.
Yeah. They're great people.
Beautiful. She is so beautiful. Her daughter, beautiful.
She is indeed. Yes. So there are guests next week. So we hope you'll tune in.
People people on here.
Yeah, you know, I just love the Down syndrome community.
Well, they love you too. I mean, you give them a voice, though. That's the thing. You're giving them a voice. I actually was messaged with Lori earlier.
Yes, she stopped. She jumped in to say hi to you tonight.
She's so sweet.
I love Lori.
Yes, yes. And they're with Nothing Down, too.
Yeah. Yeah, she's involved with all of them. She's actually, we were messaging earlier today. She's the one who introduced me to Jen Jacobs that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, that was Lori.
Well, yes, I encourage you as well to reach out to Jen, or we can reach out before you. She is amazing. I mean, the stuff that she does with DSDN will blow your mind, honestly.
That's what Lori was saying. So I am so excited to connect with her.
Yes,
for sure. All right. Well, Megan, thank you so much again. And you were just a delight. And I love everything that you're doing. And I love everything that you're doing with your family. And, you know, you're just such a tremendous advocate in our world. And, you know, just kudos to you. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, have a wonderful evening. And thank you again to everyone who joined us tonight. And come back again next Monday.
All right. Thanks.
Good night.
Night.